Welcome adventurers, welcome to another Grumtastic stream. I'm Grum, we're going to be playing some Stanley Parable. It turns out the other guys aren't here. I've just realised I'm wearing a red t-shirt and it's all red. Red background. I just realised my it's supposed to be on shuffle. It wasn't. Don't mind. Hope you're all having a good, or had a good weekend. It's the end of the weekend now, isn't it? For all of us, pretty much. I think people in America, they've just got a few more hours left. Anyway, yeah, so I put a message out to Milo and the guys to sort of see if they were going to be available. Milo's not available at all. I haven't heard back from the other two, and I said if I don't hear anything, I'll assume that you're not going to be around. So I wanted to do this afternoon, but I found myself playing Valheim all day instead. So yeah. I made a buckler on my Valheim game. Anyway, enough about that. Let's just crack on with this. So when I started the game up again, it came up with the, you probably saw it, the countdown. It came up with set the time, so I set the time. And then I remembered that actually it said to me on the last one, and said, instead of setting the actual time, set your favourite time. And then it said, so this is your favourite time. Or maybe it wasn't your favourite time, maybe you were actually setting the actual time. And it created a slider for me to say how accurate the time was. And he said, that's all the sliders it's got. And then it said, the next time you boot the game up, there might be some new sliders. So even like before we even get to here, there's a whole different load of stuff going on. I set the actual time. I went for accuracy. I know. Collecting data about me. Right. We're supposed to be get on with it, aren't we? Excuse me. Oh, just move the microphone a bit closer. There we go. We shall begin the game. Begin the game. It wasn't a continue, was there? So we got the bucket. I think there's going to be some more.
This is the story of a...
Oh, we can skip that. Right. So I was doing the mission with the clicky on the computers, wasn't I? Oh, that door didn't shut. Oh, no, I shut it.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers.
So we know we can turn the computers off. Figurine Finders Committee meeting today in the meeting room. Oh, got that again. I do wonder whether we can get in there, maybe, at some point. Maybe there's something we can do. Should we pick it up?
Where are we going today? The bucket asked. Stanley just smiled. Anywhere they went together would be perfectly fine with him.
Can we burst the balloons? No. Just a thought. Okay. The buckets. Okay.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
So, I'm trying to think if there's anything that we haven't done with the bucket that we should have done with the bucket. Oh, I'll tell you what we haven't done with the bucket. We haven't done pressing, switching the mind control on with the bucket. We did Yeah, we did the other one, didn't we? How can we find them? Bottom text. What does that say? Please do not leave the office before reporting back on any new findings. Teamwork and communication are of great importance during this unprecedented time of investigation. Help, I'm a post-it. Trust the completionist instinct. There will be a reward for finding them all. Stop kidding yourselves. I want them so much. I want to go home. There will be cleaning of this wall required. Lies. Stairs. Something to do with stairs. Oh, this is the list of the places inside the secret exhibit. Got that one. Large room, lots of boxes. Got that one. Some are both red and blue. I don't remember that one. So stairs. Something to do with stairs. So it's telling us where to look. Well, the only stairs I know about...
Oh, Stanley, can you feel it? The broom closet. It wants the bucket. You can feel that, can't you? The aura of jealousy. It's as clear. Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
Can we go down here, maybe? Ah, we found it!
And there it is. The last Stiggly Wiggly.
Stiggly
Savor
Wiggly.
this moment, Stanley. This is a real accomplishment.
Woo-hoo.
This is doing something just for the sake of doing it. Where so many people expect to be rewarded for the most trivial achievements, you've insisted that a job well done is its own reward. I would tell you that I'm proud of you for collecting them all, but that would be like a reward, and we can't have that. So, instead I'll just say, it's done. We're all done here, and now we can go to whatever the hell you were doing before you hunted for figurines.
Okay, we've done the figurines. Is that an ending?
But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss, admitting he had left
We
his post
haven't
during
done
work hours.
this, have
He might
we?
be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy. And then
This is the
something
looping, isn't
occurred
it?
to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. He looked down at the bucket in his arms. Am I crazy? He asked the bucket. The bucket returned his gaze, but said nothing at all. That's strange, Stanley thought. Usually the bucket is a source of guidance and wisdom for me in difficult times such as these. He held the bucket close, yet felt none of its familiar reassurance and comfort. And that's when Stanley realized, this isn't my bucket. It's just a normal, everyday bucket. Someone else's bucket, perhaps. How did I end up with someone else's bucket? This is all terribly wrong. Surely no good would come from this.
It's gone.
Who knows what sorts of bizarre hallucinations Stanley might experience without the psychologically grounding presence of his bucket. And indeed, now he noticed that the rooms were repeating, which was, of course, very odd. And now he felt himself floating off the ground. Oh, gracious, he exclaimed. Without my bucket, I've gone truly mad. Where is it? I must find it. Far off in the distance now, he heard it, calling to him.
Stanley! Stanley, it's me, the bucket.
Could it truly be? He rushed forward from room to room, passing by one bucket after the next. None of them were his. None of them were his special bucket.
Come to me, Stanley. Find me.
He had to find the bucket. He had to return to his old friend. It was the only way to truly restore his sanity. And then suddenly, he froze dead in his tracks. He knew where the voice of the bucket had been coming from. The real bucket was inside of him all along. It was incredibly painful. Stanley doubled over in agony and blacked out.
Well, we
This
haven't
is
had...
a story of a woman named Mariella.
Oh, God. Oh, Mariella,
Mariella
yes.
woke up on a day like any other. She
Yes.
arose, got dressed, picked up her bucket of comfort and security, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town, talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. Right away, she knew what the problem was. This man had no bucket. Of course he'd gone mad, ranting and raving about a narrator describing all of his actions and how everything is predetermined and free will is an illusion and it's all just a video game. It could all have been prevented if only he'd taken his bucket with him. Perhaps he didn't even realize he'd forgotten his bucket at home in the first place. How cruel the world can be, Mariella thought, and she hugged her own bucket even tighter. But of course, she had no time for this. There were a myriad of confusing problems she would soon have to confront at work, for which her bucket would provide absolute guidance and total clarity on everything. Heck yes, she thought to herself, my life kicks ass. And she backflipped all the way to work.
Backflipped. Well, we've got an ending. The end is never, the end is never, the end is never, the end is never. Cool. Oh, that door shut then, didn't it? I waited until I got here then.
Stanley, I'm sorry, but I have to put a pause on things. It's those figurines, those figglers. I haven't stopped thinking about them since you nabbed every last one. Wasn't it just the most intrinsically fulfilling moment of your entire life? Didn't it fill you to the brim with inner richness? Yes, I know we're supposed to be telling a story, but won't you please indulge me with one more trip back to the memory zone? I would love nothing more than to revisit the figurines. Just
memory
one more
zone.
time.
Okay. Now remembering when Stanley found the collectibles. Hang on. There was one there, wasn't there? It's missing. The BAFTA awarded to Stanley Parable, The Last of Us. The Last of Us. What does that say? Audience Award to Stanley Parable. Last of Us. Well, that's a bit topical, isn't it? Can we turn the radio on? Oh, going down.
Here's where it all began. The first collectible. Back then, we had no idea of how many of them we'd find. Sure, it said 6 right there on the screen, but how could we know for certain? We were so innocent. We'll never be like that again, Stanley.
Seven out of 6.
And here was a second Stanley. You found this one all on your own, just by poking around in the boss's bathroom. You did that, Stanley. I'll be honest. Back then, I had no faith in you to find any of them, let alone 6. But you continue to surprise me in all sorts of mundane, unremarkable ways.
Oh, door's open again. Oh, there's more. Hang on.
Okay, let's do a little quiz. Which of these rooms was the room you found your third mini Stan? Can you remember?
Ah, the third one. Where did we find the third one? I remember finding the second one. Was that one in the boss's office? I would have been going to the boss's office if I went to the thing, so I must have been the boss's office then.
Hey, that's exactly right. It was here, behind the boss's office. It was the third one. You picked it up, and then after that, you had 3 of them. I'm glad these moments are so crystal clear in your memory, but I shouldn't be surprised. After all, science tells us that it's impossible to forget your 3rd time doing anything.
4th time, gonna be a bit awkward, isn't it?
Let's see, what came next? Oh yes, we found a Figley in this pink room. Oh well, I can't actually say I remember being in this room, but it's here in the memory zone, so it must have happened.
I don't remember there being a pink room.
This was the 5th mini-Stan, and this one was really something special. It was by the red and blue doors. I remember it so clearly. In fact, because this one is particularly special to me, I made a little video to commemorate the occasion. Enjoy.
How you found this? What's that in there? It's mini stand number 5. High five. Woo. The red and blue doors. Thanks for watching. Starring Stanley. Copyright.
Takes you back, doesn't it? I spent a lot of time making that video, but it was 8 minutes I wouldn't have spent on anything else.
I had to take the wrong door. The last one was in the warehouse, wasn't it? Not the warehouse, the bottom of the stairs, because we just did it, didn't we?
And then, Stanley, then we came to the last collectible, the final figurine, right here, under the stairs. This memory is the most distinct and clear in my mind, perhaps because it was the one that happened more recently than all the others. Who can truly say how the mind works? All I know is that this is the moment where you picked up a Figley and I thought to myself, yes, that's all of them. They're all collected. It was a moment unlike any other. Except for the other moments picking up figurines, which it was exactly like.
12 out of 6. What did that say? I was trying to read it. It's almost readable. I wrote this in first period and left it in your locker on the way to school. It's what all the cool kids are something. I've decided we are... Oh, I can't. No. That's a little bit too bad, that one. We're going to carry on up the stairs, I suppose. Oh, no. You are in the present. That was the past.
And then there was no more. Because we've caught up to the present moment. Nothing left to do but move onward into the future. Goodbye, memory zone.
That was awesome. A TV showing what I can do.
No, I'm not done. I'm not ready to move on. Stop the loading screen. Isn't there some way we can stay here, keep enjoying these figurines? Let's just go backwards. We'll do the memory zone again from the opposite direction. See how that feels. Okay, yes, that spot under the stairs. I remember this. I must say, of all the figurines we looked at in our initial tour of the memory zone, this one is the most distinct and clear in my mind. Let's keep going. I want more.
We'll use the red door this time.
And here's where I made that video. Don't you remember the video we watched?
Oh.
Yes.
Yes.
I love that video.
You do. Well, you made it. How can you not love it?
Still don't
I
remember
really
the pink room, Stanley.
don't
Still
remember
no
this
memory
pink
of this
room.
one. Good room, though. A solid room.
Can't interact with that door at all. It's not even registering. That's weird. The pink room. Do we remember? I don't remember the pink room. If the narrator doesn't remember the pink room...
These really were a treat to hunt down. You know, if there had been any kind of reward for finding all of these, it really would have muted the intrinsic joy of collecting them. I'm very glad we resisted the temptation. Next one.
Last one, isn't it? What was the one in the warehouse? We haven't done the one in the warehouse. There was one in the warehouse. We haven't done that. That was the pink room. The pink room was the warehouse. We've got the toilet now.
This was our second Figley. Don't you remember? Yes, I remember it too. The past is truly a wonderful thing. Why does anyone ever choose to leave it? Keep going. This is it. The very first one we found in the exhibit where I introduced you to the figlarines. Oh, I want more memories, Stanley. I want to keep going. What else is there? What came before this?
Collect them all. Can you find them? Can you find them? Can you find them? Can you find them? Oh. Where are we going now? Over here? Was this the jump?
Look, it's the terrible new content that we were originally sold on. I remember hating it back then, but time does put a rosy filter on everything. In fact, I dare say I'm actually quite fond of it now. Look how much fun the past is. I want more. Oh, yes, the two doors. Who could have forgotten that? A classic memory, this one. And before everything else, there was your office. Is there anything else? Was there something that came before your office? There's something I feel I can remember. I can remember.
Before the office?
Yes, I'm remembering something now.
Oof.
I remember before this whole story got started. Back then I was different. I used to make big decisions. I was passionate. I was skeptical. I weighed each decision with profound thoughtfulness. And then somewhere along the way, I stopped making decisions. I became lazy, and I came up with a character named Stanley to do my thinking for me. He would make the decisions. He would decide which way to go. I would cheer him on as he collected figurines for no reason. Why did I invent Stanley? Was I lonely? Yes, perhaps that's it. Perhaps I needed to imagine I had companionship. And Stanley really did make for a wonderful companion, even if he was a fiction. But I suppose it's grown old. I want to think for myself again. I want to go back to how it used to be. Yes, I can be on my own again. I can do it. I'll be stronger this time. I'll take care of myself. I don't need Stanley anymore. Oh, but he truly was so much fun to play with. You know what? Since we're in the memory zone, how about one more good memory? Let's go back just once and give Stanley one more run of the office, and then I'll retire him for good. I did enjoy telling his story so very much. Okay, here we go. This is the story of a man named Stanley.
I've got a red light. Can't seem to do anything with that.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers.
Yeah, the thing's gone up. Ah. Available input. Take the bucket with us.
Bucket. A strong bucket, a humble bucket, a committed bucket, a bucket of culture and distinction.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left. Still no one was here. Stanley needed the bucket's warmth and comfort now more than ever.
Oh.
Perhaps his boss's office was where he'd find answers.
This page contains no information. TPS report. Can't quite read that one. Everyone is unique.
Oh, Stanley, can you feel it?
No.
The broom closet. It wants the bucket. You can feel that? Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
Right, so we've done downstairs with the bucket. To be rich, is it a crime? To commit crimes, isn't it rich? What a life it would be to have to pick just one. Gonna sneeze. God. It was one of those horrible ones. Ah. Business strategy. We've seen this before, haven't we? It's the rattling room. I wonder if there's any other kind of switches that we don't know about. Ah, I thought maybe I could... I do wonder how long you can be in here for before it does something. We got the bucket now, though. I'm definitely gonna do it so that I actually
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once
What's
again
the number again?
stunned to discover not an indication of any human life.
2, 8.
Crushed by the weight of this revelation, but Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation.
That's where the figurine was. So if you've got the bucket, you can do the code in early, and it's fine.
The elevator raced downward, plummeting towards an unknown fate. It would be all Stanley could do to keep himself together, if not for the bucket. Soothing him, comforting him, reassuring that in this darkest moment of uncertainty, he would be all right. The bucket is here for you, Stanley. Everything will be fine.
Oh, I didn't know you could go back up.
Stanley said to the bucket. Can we go back up? When I was pressing those keypad buttons, there was something very intriguing about the number 3. I want to go back so I can try pressing the number 3 again. bucket said nothing.
Something intriguing about the number 3. I didn't even know I could push it up again. Just random. Something intriguing about the number 3.
Here we are, said Stanley. Now I'm going to try out that number 3 button. He took the bucket over to the keypad and began absolutely slamming on the number 3 over and over and over. Wow, he said. The number 3 is such a special button. I'm having the time of my life. After taking some time to show the bucket around the boss's office, Stanley at last went to the keypad, where he began eagerly pressing the number 3 again and again.
No. Why are we pressing 3? It doesn't seem to be doing anything. But how often do we have to keep pressing it? Okay, I'm bored.
Perhaps the bucket had missed something. Perhaps it had not seen how much joy Stanley got from slamming the number 3 repeatedly. A hint of regret nagged in the back of Stanley's mind. Should he demonstrate the number 3 for the bucket again? No, said Stanley to the bucket. You can't go on yet. Not till you understand how much the number 3 means to me. You and I have been through so much together, and I just want you to see what I see. Feel the happiness I feel. He smiled at the bucket, and the bucket said nothing. Here we go, said Stanley. This time I'll really show you. He ran to the number 3 and began to wail on it like a musician on a beloved instrument, weaving a concerto of truth and passion. He wielded the number 3 like a fine artist would wield a paintbrush. He told stories through the number 3, stories of his dreams and hopes and fears, and the whole time he looked to his bucket for a reaction of some kind. Anything to let him know that the bucket appreciated what he was doing. The bucket conveyed absolutely nothing at all, only silence. Crushed by a wave of dejection, Stanley returned to the elevator.
Okay. We'll go back.
Stanley and the bucket were so close. They'd always been there for one another. Why suddenly could the bucket not connect with this passion of Stanley's? The question caused Stanley to ruminate the whole way down the elevator. He knew that there must be a way to get through to the bucket, to communicate fully with his dear friend. Surely there was a solution, mustn't there be?
Has this bucket got camouflage? I just noticed it doesn't. Not like camouflage. Ah. Now we can't go back up. Yes, we can.
Said Stanley. I know what to do. I know how to fully express this feeling in my heart. He decided right then and there that he would hold a press conference where he would speak to the public on all matters relating to pressing the number 3 over and over. He would elaborate fully on what the number 3 meant to him and why he felt so alive when pressing it. Then the bucket would be able to see his joy through the eyes of others. It would get to see the world react to this discovery of Stanley's. And it would be through the public eye that the bucket would finally understand Stanley's work. For months, he advertised and marketed his press conference, building excitement around it, developing and rehearsing it, until it couldn't be refined a single measure further. When the big day arrived,
World's
Stanley
healthiest
was
human
as
being.
prepared as
How we
he'd
did it.
ever been for anything in
Guy
his
who
life.
went to Mars. The man, the process, the myth, the legend, the parable. Stanley, from the Stanley Parable, tonight, live on stage. Doing great, the conversation. A conversation with Alexander, the Great. 33333. Oh, do you think that this might be like Stanley Parable with...
This was it. One last chance to win the bucket over. One opportunity to share a true connection with a loved one.
Three again. Three again. What did I say? 3. That's the magic number. Yes, it is. Congratulations, Stanley. Remember where you came from. Your co-workers. We're going up. Hang on, we came from that way, didn't we?
There was no one here. Nobody had come to the press conference to hear Stanley speak, to listen to him talk about what it really means to press the number 3 on a keypad over and over. He was unloved, uninteresting, he was a failure, and in that moment Stanley knew that the bucket would never again take him seriously. There would be no connection, no deeper understanding. The bucket merely sat there in his arms, indifferent. And so it began that slowly, over many years, the two of them grew more and more distant. They spoke less and less, neither wishing to state the obvious, that any sense of real respect between them had eroded since that day at the press conference. There would be no more games, no more long conversations about passion and pursuit, only a silence that consumed the space between friends. And Stanley, having for once in his life discovered the warmth and comfort of true companionship, was cast back into the unremarkable normalcy of loneliness.
That was good timing. Is that an ending? It is. It's an ending. Thanks. Welcome, adventurer. Welcome to the adventure. Stanley Parable. I've not played the game before.
Gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
I'm just finished talking. Yeah, so I started playing on Thursday, Thursday afternoon, Thursday evening, and now I'm just sort of returned to it. So I haven't completed all the bits and pieces yet.
No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his
I
co-workers.
know you can turn computers off, but but we have the bucket. Ah, there it is. Still haven't managed to complete that one yet. Unknown. Hello.
The embrace of an old friend, a weathered companionship that stands the test of time.
So just basically going through all the
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
Unknown, is that? I am doing the left at the moment. I'm doing the left story. I keep getting distracted by things, which isn't a bad
Still
thing.
no one was here. Stanley needed the bucket's warmth and comfort now more than ever. Perhaps his boss's office was where he'd find... Oh, Stanley, can you feel it? The broom closet. It wants the bucket. You
But
can
it can't
feel
have
that,
the
can't you?
bucket.
The aura of jealousy. It's as coming
Everyone
to a
did this fine day?
staircase. Stanley and the
Yes,
bucket
I hope
walked
so.
upstairs to the boss's office. Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley
put
was
the
once
code in
again
early.
stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. But Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation.
Welcome. Welcome, 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 welcome. So we found out what happens if you press up on the lift. I'm not going to do that again, obviously, because there's no point. I've already done...
Stanley and the bucket walked straight
we'll have
ahead
to see
through
whether
the large door that
you can
read,
press up
Mind Control
without the bucket.
Facility.
Because it wasn't something I tried. I've been down there with and without the bucket, so I'm going to do this.
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley and the bucket both wondered to themselves.
So yeah. Ooh.
The monitors jumped to life, and Stanley nearly dropped the bucket
So
in
one
shock.
of them says pirate.
Everyone
There it
in the
is.
office was being videotaped,
One at the very top,
monitored like
on
guinea
that column,
pigs.
the central column.
The bucket had never seen
Wait for
anything like
that.
this, and it very nearly burst into tears as Stanley cradled it gently, reassuring it
So
that
I'm going to have to
everything would be
go
fine.
have a nice stream. All right then, Archie, nice to see you. Thank you for the follow. I stream at 8 o'clock every evening. That's GMT at the moment. So, but
Was the
not
bucket
every
under
evening.
the mind control facility's influence
Saturday,
as well?
Sunday, Monday,
Had
Tuesday
the bucket
and
been told
Thursday
to
is
do
my stream
things
nights.
it didn't wish to do? What kinds of things does a bucket want to do or not want to do in the first place? These questions raced furiously in Stanley's feeble mind. No! He screamed into the bucket. He couldn't accept it.
I've
His
not been
own
listening
life
to him
in
talking.
someone else's
I've already heard
control.
all of this.
Never! He squeezed the bucket tighter. His one friend in the entire world. At this point, he could trust no one except
Where is it?
for the
There it
bucket.
is. There we go.
But here was the proof. The heart of the
So I
operation.
have done
Controls
what I'm
labeled with
about to do,
emotions, happy or sad or content.
without the bucket, but I haven't done
Walking,
it with
eating,
the bucket.
working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power. But at the last second, the bucket jumped in and pressed the button to turn on the controls. Stanley gasped in horror. Had this been the bucket's plan all along? To take over the machine and claim the power for itself? How could the bucket have betrayed him like this? Stanley was prepared to throw the bucket away in disgust when suddenly an image appeared upon the enormous screen.
Oh.
Birds. Silly, silly birds. The control buttons became active again. Stanley flipped through one video of silly birds after another, and then it dawned on him. This wasn't a mind control facility at all. It was a facility for monitoring and surveilling silly birds all over the world. The mind controls were only a facade to disguise its true intentions. Had the bucket known this all along? Stanley marveled at the metal genius in his hands, the one who had pointed him towards this incredible discovery. Stanley and the bucket never found freedom because they spent the rest of their lives here in this place, flipping through live streams of the silliest birds imaginable. Of all the possible paths his life could have taken, this one was surely the best. And Stanley was happy.
Oh, we're looping. I think we're looping. We're looping. Well, that's an ending. Ooh, got a red light there. That means there's a voicemail message or something, doesn't it? Usually.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Oh, that one. Huh. Oh, hang on. Where's the bucket? Don't forget the bucket.
The bucket made Stanley want to be a better man and a better co-worker. In time, perhaps, he would become both of those things. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
I don't know that we've done everything else on the left I can think of.
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Was this better than the meeting room? Yes, Stanley thought to himself. Yes, perhaps it truly was. How insightful the bucket turned out to be. No, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
I think what we haven't done,
said the bucket.
Don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift, yes. Go there. Go to the cargo lift.
So I've been down there with the bucket. Do not jump from the cargo lift while it's in motion. Will cause death.
Good, said the bucket. Now ride the lift all the way to the top. There's something up there I need you to do.
Stanley did not question why or how this bucket was speaking to him. It should have alarmed him, of course, because buckets can't talk. But Stanley chose not to think about this obvious fact. He was firmly convinced that the bucket had spoken to him, and he unthinkingly did whatever the bucket asked.
Just checking. Well, I'm not doing what the bucket's asked. Danger everywhere.
No, stop. Look there on the wall. You see, there's a sign right there. It says, no buckets past this point. Stanley, how could you think it was okay to bring the bucket here? Unless, what if the problem is that you actually don't know what is a bucket and what isn't a bucket? I suppose that would explain a lot about your behavior up to this point. Which, if that's true, well, my goodness, I think we have to do something about it. This misunderstanding could have dire consequences on the entire rest of the game if not addressed quickly and properly. So much of the impact of the story is dependent on your understanding of what is and isn't a bucket. Please, Step in here for a moment.
Oh.
Now then, I'm going to run you through some test scenarios, and you'll tell me whether or not the thing I'm showing you is a bucket. Simple enough, right? This should tell us everything we'll ever need to know about what is or is not a bucket. Okay, let's begin. Item 1. Is this a bucket? Incorrect. It is a hologram of a bucket, not an actual bucket. Item 2. Is this a bucket? Incorrect. It is a 3D printed recreation of a bucket, not an actual bucket.
Ah.
Item 3. Is this a bucket? Incorrect. This is a bucket.
It is a bucket. I don't think it matters what we do.
Item 4. Is this a bucket? What? Are you hallucinating? This is a tractor. It's an enormous machine that tills the earth. I thought this was a gimmick. How on earth did you manage to screw it up? Absolutely incredible. Let's just move on to the next one. Is this a bucket? Incorrect. This is a bucket.
I don't think it matters what we say, does it?
Item 6. Is this a bucket? Trick question. Both. Gotcha.
What? We got one right.
Item... Wait, hold on. I can't find the next one. Let me see. It should be around here somewhere. Okay, you and I both know there isn't anything here. And I don't appreciate the implication that nothing is a bucket when we both clearly know that a bucket is something. And
It's
therefore
something.
nothing could possibly be something. Unless, in your twisted mind, have you somehow convinced yourself that a bucket is nothing? Answer me straight, Stanley. Do you believe that nothing is a bucket? You know what? I'm too confused to even sort it out. I've lost all sense of perspective. What is a bucket? What isn't a bucket? Mere moments ago I could answer these questions with confidence. And yet now I'm somewhat adrift. Do any of us know what a bucket is? Am I a bucket? Stanley, I can't keep doing this. I'm losing myself, and myself was all I ever had to begin with. I'm afraid the bucket is threatening to tear our relationship apart. I can't have that. I'm sorry. But I'm going to erase all buckets from the game entirely. Okay, here we go.
No.
What happened? Is everything gone? Why did everything disappear? Wait, was everything a bucket? Every single thing in the game was a bucket. Oh my God, I had no idea. How could... except me. I'm not a bucket after all. And you, Stanley, you're still here. You're not a bucket either. Oh, this is wonderful news. We're not buckets. Yes, I actually feel much more at ease right now. It's delightful to get some clarity on that issue. But
There
it
you
doesn't
go.
change the fact that we haven't got a game. So, tell you what, I'll reset everything and we'll put back all of the buckets, okay? And we'll know that it's all a bucket. But if you run into anyone else, maybe don't mention that. Who knows what that information might do to a person? All right, here we go.
The end is never the end is never the end.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers.
Not everyone is so lucky to have a bucket, but Stanley is a very lucky fellow. Very lucky indeed.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the... This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had
I just
felt
suddenly
the bucket
thought to
calling
myself,
him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Well, no, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
No,
Said the bucket.
don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift, yes. Go there. Go to the cargo lift.
Have we tried dying with the bucket?
But Stanley feared that any path he walked might lead to the separation of himself and the bucket, his dearest friend. So he threw himself to his death, that they might die in one another's arms. How deeply touching.
Okay, we'll try again.
Already this was uncomfortable, and Stanley decided that as soon as he found a new space he felt safe in, that he would never leave it again in his life.
That's a different
It takes a lot of humility to carry a bucket so magnificent. Stanley checked his ego and then proceeded onward.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply
So
the
I'm
place
still going to
to
do
be.
the same thing, but I'm
And
actually
here
going to
it
go
was.
in that
Had
little
the
tunnel.
bucket turned out to be correct?
The,
Well, no, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
No,
Said the bucket.
don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift, yes. Go there. Go to...
Okay, this is day number 295, tape number... I don't even know. I've lost track. Nothing feels real anymore. The longer I study this bucket, the less sense anything makes. The sheer euphoria I feel every time I pick it up. No matter how many times I've done it, it's always the same feeling. And the emptiness in my chest when I set it down. It
What a
doesn't
ass.
make sense. There's no explanation for it. I still haven't figured out why I see the world so differently when this bucket is in my arms. Why everything feels so... What do I do with this treasure? I can monetize it. Yes. It's unthinkable the amounts of money people will pay for even just an hour with the bucket. This
It's my
is
golden
my golden ticket.
tickets.
But I have to be careful, because as soon as this gets out, there's going to be a target on my back. Even now, I don't know who might be trying to get me. What's that? Who's there?
Okay.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Stanley cradled the bucket in a gentle embrace, protective yet delicate, assertive yet compassionate.
Are we supposed to be going through the meeting room? Oh, the meeting
Stanley
room.
clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
I'm trying to think if we've done everything.
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Was this... No, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
We haven't done the actual...
No,
Said the bucket.
don't go to the meeting room.
Wait,
Go
let's- I
somewhere
can't remember
else.
if we have or
The
not.
cargo lift, yes. Go there. Go to the cargo. Good.
Said the bucket.
Now ride the lift all the way to the top. There's something up there I need you to do.
Stanley did not question why or how this bucket was speaking to him. It should have alarmed him, of course, because buckets can't talk. But Stanley chose not to think about this obvious fact. He was firmly convinced that the bucket had spoken to him, and he unthinkingly did whatever the bucket asked.
In here.
Said the bucket.
Go into this dark room over here.
Stanley once again obeyed blindly.
Now pick up the phone.
Said the bucket.
Pick up the phone, and it will take us back home, where we can go about life together.
Let's pick up the phone.
This is the sad story of a man named Stanley and his bucket. Once upon a time, I gave Stanley a bucket because I thought he
Oh,
was
no,
lonely
I've done
and
this
could use
before,
a
haven't I?
friend. And then, very distressingly, he began to believe the bucket could speak to him. The Stanley Parable Reassurance Bucket was merely meant to provide the comforting glow of companionship. It doesn't literally talk and give you orders. Whatever Stanley is hearing the bucket say to him is just in his head. Lately, I've been concerned about him. Wouldn't you be concerned as well? To see him delusional like this, obsessing over an inanimate metal object? I want to say something to him, but I don't know how I can convince him. I don't know if he'll listen to me. Oh, I'll try anyway. Stanley, can you hear me? Listen to me. It's just a bucket. It can't think. It can't talk. All it will ever truly do for you is
excuse
effectively
me.
transfer a liquid from one location to a different location. That's it. It doesn't do anything else.
Just try pressing other buttons to see what
You
happens.
see, he's not listening. He's still taking orders from the bucket. You know, once upon a time it was me he took orders from. Me he trusted and listened to. Now all he cares about is his awful bucket. This
Jazz
stupid
music.
hunk of metal.
No bucket. Okay. Oh, that looks like a bucket, doesn't it?
It's sad. I suppose he doesn't need me anymore. From now on, he's just going to cling to this bucket, this cold, empty bucket, this sort of shiny bucket. Well, I'll give it this. The bucket does have a nice shine to it. Yes, I suppose on closer inspection that it doesn't quite look like your average hardware
It's got a
store
bucket
bucket.
now.
It's just a little more, what am I trying to say? Sturdier, more capable of transporting liquid. Like it would be better at moving an amount of water from one room to another. Oh my God, what am I saying? Better at carrying water from room to room. It's a bucket. It's literally just a bucket. Why do I feel some need to point out the ways in which it's so much
we're going to do
more
this again,
than
but
just a
actually
regular
unplug
bucket?
the phone after this.
Oh no, I'm having feelings for the bucket. No, 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 no. What's going on? Why do I want to be with the bucket? Hear what the bucket has to say. Do anything it asks. What's wrong with me? I don't understand. Perhaps if I had the bucket, this would be less confusing. Yes, the bucket could tell me what to do in this troublesome situation. Stanley, give me the bucket. Give it to me. Give me the bucket, Stanley. I need it. Give it to me now. Give it, or I'll...
Go back to work, Stanley. Okay, so we're going to do that again,
All of
but
his
this time we're
co-workers
going
were
to...
gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Stanley's bucket. The only co-worker he would ever truly need.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his... This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? No, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back.
So we're going to unplug the...
No,
said the bucket.
don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift, yes. Go there. Go to the cargo lift.
I'll open that door, can we? I don't know what's wrong with my nose.
Good,
but Jesus.
said the bucket. Now ride the lift all the way to the top.
There's some
something
dust
up
in this
there I
room or
need you to
something.
do.
Oh,
Stanley did not question why or how this bucket was speaking to him.
I'm kind
It
of
should have
curious to know
alarmed
whether
him,
we
of
can
course,
now
because
go
buckets can't talk.
down the area
But Stanley
where
chose not to think about this obvious fact. He was
can.
firmly convinced that the bucket had spoken to him, and he unthinkingly did whatever the bucket asked.
In here.
Said the bucket.
Go into this dark room over here.
Stanley once again obeyed blindly.
Now pick up the phone.
Whoa, hold on. Why did you unplug the phone? Were you trying to resist the bucket's orders? Stanley, I was joking. Obviously, the bucket isn't talking to you and telling you to do things. Buckets can't talk. It was a joke. Don't you get the joke? It's funny, Stanley. A talking
Right, we've
bucket.
done this before.
Ah,
We've done this
can't you see
before.
how... Oh, goodness. I
That's
must
the
have
problem
really
leaving it
bungled up the delivery if you
like
actually
days
took me
between
seriously. Where
games.
did
You
I
can't
miss out
remember
the
what you have
joke?
or haven't done.
Should I have paused for longer or spoken quicker? Comedic timing is so difficult. I wish I were better at it. But there isn't exactly an instructional video on comedy that one can watch to fully... Oh, wait, yes, there is. It's sitting right here. Let's take a look.
Do we want to follow this through?
What is comedic timing? What is comedic timing? How does it work? How long should it last? How can it be used to effectively silence your political enemies?
Do we want to do this? I don't want to do this. I can't.
How long
Okay.
was I sitting there? Stanley wondered to himself. Minutes? Days? Centuries? Did something
know.
crucial happen while my senses were turned? He made a note to be more careful with time from now on.
Well, that's a bit weird.
Is Stanley, without the bucket, really Stanley at all? No. No, surely not.
We can still go back.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
Right.
This
The only
was
other
not
thing
the
I can
correct
think
way
of
to
that
the
we
meeting
haven't
room.
done is
Stanley
go
had felt the bucket
down,
calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Was this better than the meeting room? Yes, Stanley thought to himself. Yes, perhaps it truly was. No, never mind. The bucket was wrong.
Right, so I think we've done
Stanley
everything
took
we
the door on his
can up
left
there,
to
other
go
than...
back to the meeting room.
I'm just wondering whether we can now do the thing that we weren't allowed to
Said the
do.
bucket.
Don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift, yes. Go there. Go to the cargo.
So
Good,
in
said
there,
the bucket.
to
Now
the
ride the lift all the way to the top. There's something
see
up
if it
there
does
I
the
need
same
you to do.
storyline.
Stanley did not question why or how this bucket was speaking to him. It should have alarmed him, of course, because buckets can't talk. But Stanley chose not to think about this obvious fact. He was firmly convinced that the bucket had spoken to him, and he unthinkingly did whatever the bucket asked.
That door doesn't open, does it? And that down there is the thing that takes us down into the thing. We don't know what that corridor does up there, but might not do anything at all.
No, stop. Look there on the wall. You see, there's a sign right there. It says, no buckets past this point. Stanley, how could you think it was...
Right, I'm not gonna... Actually,
okay
shall we
to
see if we
bring
can do the
Unless... What
quiz
if the
again,
problem
but
is
this
that you
time we know
actually
that
don't
the
know what
answer
is
should
a
be
bucket and what isn't a
the
bucket?
first two
I
were
suppose that would explain a lot
wrong,
about your behavior up to
and
this
see
point,
whether
which,
actually
if
that
that's
was
true,
just
well,
they've
my
got.
goodness.
It didn't matter
I
what
think
you
we
did;
have
it
to
was
do
always going to be
something
wrong.
about it. This misunderstanding
out of
could
interest.
have dire consequences on the entire rest of the game if not addressed quickly and properly. So much of the impact of the story is dependent on your understanding of what is and isn't a bucket. Please, step in here.
So I answered yes to the first two, didn't I?
Now then, I'm going to run you through some test scenarios. And
So the
you'll
first
tell
one
me
he
whether or
said it
not
was a
the thing I'm
hologram, and
showing
the second one he
is a
said
bucket.
it was
Simple enough, right? This should tell us everything we'll ever need to know about what is
was a 3D
or
print.
is not a bucket. Okay, let's begin. Item 1. Is this a bucket? Correct. It is a hologram of a bucket,
Wow.
not an actual bucket. Item 2. Is this a bucket? Correct. It is a 3D printed recreation of a bucket, not an actual bucket.
So this could be a different ending again then, if we get all these right. I just can't remember what the third one was.
Item 3. Is this a bucket?
I think I answered no to that one, so...
Correct. This is a bucket.
There's the tractor.
Item 4. Is this a bucket? Correct. This is a tractor and not a bucket. To be honest, I just sort of put this one in here as a gimme, but I was starting to get concerned that even this might be too much for you. Thank you for not making me look like an idiot. Okay, next one.
So there is a right answer then.
Is this a bucket?
No, it's... yes, it is.
Correct. This is a bucket. Item 6. Is this a bucket?
I can't remember what I answered for this one. I think I said yes.
Trick question.
Ah,
Both. Gotcha.
gotcha. Yeah.
Item... Wait, hold on. I can't find the next one. Let me see. It should be around here somewhere.
So I said yes, it was... Nothing was a bucket, but...
Yes. Thank you. There's nothing here. Of course it isn't a bucket. We both know full well that nothing isn't a bucket. Wait, when I say nothing isn't a bucket, that makes it sound like I'm saying everything is a bucket, which of course is not true. Unless, is that what you think? Answer me straight, Stanley. Are you trying to tell me that you believe everything is a bucket?
No.
You know what? I'm too confused to even sort it out. I've lost all sense of perspective. What is a bucket? What isn't a bucket? Mere moments ago, I could answer these questions with confidence.
So we're going to go
Yet
down the
now
same
I'm
path
somewhat
anyway, no
adrift.
matter what you get.
Do any of us know what a bucket is? Am I a bucket? Stanley, I can't keep doing this. I'm losing myself, and myself was all I ever had to begin with. I'm afraid the bucket is threatening to tear our relationship apart. I can't have that. I'm sorry. But I'm going to erase all buckets from the game entirely. Okay, here we go. What happened? Is everything gone? Why did everything disappear? Wait, was everything a bucket?
Everything's a
Every
bucket.
single thing in the game was a bucket.
Everything.
Oh my God, I had no idea. How could... except me. I'm not a bucket after all. And you, Stanley, you're still here. You're not a bucket either. Oh, this is wonderful news. We're not buckets. Yes, I actually feel much more at ease.
So it's the same
now.
ending.
It's delightful to get some clarity on that issue, but it doesn't change the fact that we haven't got a game. So, tell you what, I'll reset everything and we'll put back all of the buckets, okay? And we'll know that it's all a bucket. But if you run into anyone else, maybe don't mention that. Who knows what that information
The
might
same
do
answer.
to a person.
I was
All right,
hoping maybe we'd
here
get
we
something
go.
different because I was getting them right.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers.
Okay.
As Stanley lifted his bucket, he felt a connection to all buckets everywhere. This adventure, he decided, was for all of them.
Is that different?
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
That was different, wasn't it? It felt different. Let's go this way.
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Was this better? No, never mind. The bucket was wrong.
So I think we've done
Stanley
everything
took
we
the door
can
on
with the
his left
bucket in that
to go back to the
direction.
meeting. And so the two of them detoured through the maintenance section and walked straight ahead to the opposite door.
We haven't been this way with the bucket, I think.
Oh, good, Stanley. I'm glad you found your way here. I knew you'd find this place eventually. You see, your friends and I are concerned for you, Stanley. We've come together here because we care about you very much. It's this bucket you're carrying around everywhere. The bucket isn't even from the original Stanley Parable. It's just sequel content. We're the ones that matter, Stanley. Classic characters from the first game, like the Adventure Line and the Broom Closet. Because that's what fans want from a sequel. They want more of their favorite jokes, not this bucket that they've
No, I
never
think
seen
I've done this
before.
before with the bucket.
Yes, I know I'm the one who gave you the bucket, but you're spending too much time with it. Don't you want another story involving the Adventure Line? We could make the Adventure Line go somewhere new. Yes, yes, that's what the fans want. Let's... Whee! Look at that wacky line. Who knows where it'll go off to next? Oh, and it played some silly music as well. Now this is what the Stanley Parable is all about. Don't you remember all those great jokes from the original dialogue?
Also, Stanley is addicted to drugs and hookers.
Yes, it's as classic now as it was back then. Let's do it for the fans, Stanley. Let's give them more content exactly like this.
No, I've done this before.
But if we want to do that, you're going to have to give something up.
I don't remember if we did this without the bucket.
Don't you get it, Stanley? We need to get rid of the bucket. That's why I'm very proud to introduce a brand new character. This is the Bucket Destroyer. I think it'll make a wonderful new addition to the rich lore of the Stanley Parable. True, it also was not in the original game, but it's such a well-fleshed-out character with so much personality that to me it already feels as though it's been part of the cast all along. Don't you agree? Can you guess what the Bucket Destroyer does? Surely you don't need me to spell it out for you. Go ahead now, Stanley. Say goodbye to the bucket, and then pop it into the machine when you're ready.
No, I've done this before.
Now listen to me. It's crucial that you give it the bucket.
I'm going to begin again. I'm going to do the same thing, but without the bucket. I'm kind of curious. Hang on a minute. Okay.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply...
What new mysteries lay in store for our bucket-loving heroes today? Let's find out.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? No, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back, and so the two of them detoured through the maintenance section and walked straight ahead to the opposite door.
So that's the door on the left, isn't it?
Still no one was here. Stanley needed the bucket's warmth and comfort now more than ever. Perhaps his boss's office was where he'd find answers. Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
I don't know that there's anything we haven't done up here with the bucket. Did we go in the lift with the bucket? I think we probably have, haven't we? How long do we have to wait, you reckon? Just like it. Territory we're going up or down? That's looping, isn't it? Okay.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life.
The bucket did not react, except perhaps a tiny glow of warmth. Subtle, yes, but an unmistakable spark from somewhere deep within.
Ah.
But Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation.
I can't type anything else in. Just trying to think, have we done everything? Let's go back.
Stanley had never seen the office this brightly lit. Was it a sign of something? He hoped it was. He hoped very much that it was.
Right, so we're going to do the downstairs thing, but without the bucket.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. It was okay.
It was okay.
But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. And so he detoured through the maintenance section, walked straight ahead to the opposite door, and got back on track. But Stanley didn't want to go back to the office. He wanted to wander about and get even further off track. So now in order to get back, he needed to go, from here it's, left.
Ah, thank you.
Oh, no. No, it's to the right. My mistake.
Oh, sorry. This way then.
No, not the right. Why would I have ever said it was to the right? What was I thinking? It's clearly... Oh, dear, would you hold on for a minute, please? Now, let's see. We went down right, left, down, left, right. Yep, okay, yes. I've got it now. This story is absolutely, definitely this way. No. This isn't right at all. You're not supposed to be here yet. This is all a spoiler. Quick, Stanley, close your eyes. Okay. We just have to get back to, oh.
What's that say over there?
Am I kidding?
It's
all rubbish now.
It's the paperclip.
The whole story completely unusable.
432.
How about, rather than waste my time trying to salvage this nonsense, we'll just restart the game from the beginning. And this time, suppose we don't wander so far off track, Okay, from the top.
$427. I thought it was 327 for some reason.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
I can't turn it off. I'll turn that off. Why couldn't I turn the other one off then? Where's the bucket?
When Stanley... Wait, what? No, I restarted.
So last time I
definitely
went
restarted
that
the
way.
game over, completely fresh. Everything should be... Or did something change? Stanley, did you change anything when we were back in that room with all the monitors? Did you move the story somewhere or... Hold on. Why am I asking you? I'm the one who wrote the story.
Left here, I think.
It was right here just a minute ago. I know for sure that it's here somewhere. Okay, then. It's an adventure. Come, Stanley. Let's find the story.
So they still go off in the, or seem to go off in the direction of... Ah, okay. Everyone knows what you did. They're just holding back to let you torture yourself.
I'll say it. This is the worst adventure I've ever been on. I can promise you there definitely was a story here before. Do we need to restart the game again? Well, I find it unlikely that we'll ever progress by starting over and over again, but it's got to be better than this. Okay, let's give it a shot. Why not? All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
We still haven't got the bucket.
Okay, yep, it's worse. I might be remembering this wrong. It's possible the story is back where we just came from. Why don't we go back the other direction and see if we missed anything?
Well, we haven't got a lot of choice, so... All the computers are off. Can't turn them back on again.
Aha! I knew we'd missed something. The story. Here it comes. No, wait. Never mind. Not the story. Okay, let's head back the other way and retrace our steps.
Can't shut the door.
Now this... Well, I'll be honest, I don't recognize this place at all. Is this the story? I don't think so. I can't quite recall, but I believe my story took place in an office building. Is that correct? Do you remember, Stanley? Well, do you know what? Since I've completely forgotten what we were supposed to be doing, how about this? You win!
No.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers.
Right, so the bucket does change things, doesn't it? But I'm a bit stuck on... there's supposed to be 40 different endings. So we need to find the other one. I think it's upstairs.
Now
We'll
this,
take this
Stanley
with us.
thought to himself, this is a bucket. And indeed it was. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left. Still no one was here. Stanley needed the bucket's warmth and comfort now more than ever. Perhaps his boss's office was where he'd find answers. Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
And the bucket. Just going to double check. Don't think there's anything in there, is there? No. Well, I think it should be this one. Yep. Input received.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this revelation, Stanley may have broken down into an emotional dumpster fire if not for the soothing presence of the bucket. Even now, in his darkest of hours, did the bucket's warmth and guiding light pierce the dark clouds of confusion and chaos. It would be with him, always. The bucket would. And he knew it. The two of them were inseparable. At this point, Stanley was so absorbed in the tender spiritual connection he shared with the bucket that he didn't notice the keypad behind the boss's desk. Nor in his bliss of simply being near the bucket did he have any notion that the PIN number for the keypad was 2845.
The bucket did not react, except perhaps a tiny glow of warmth.
Stanley just sat around twiddling his thumbs. Trying to input anything on the device was useless, since he could never possibly know that the combination was 2845. But Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation.
So, I know by doing pushing the buttons on the thing, it takes us to a new area. But I don't know what to do when we get to that area.
Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read, Mind Control Facility.
I'm just going to try something.
Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley and the bucket would both meet a violent death. The door behind them was not shut. Stanley and the bucket still had every opportunity
I've done this with
to turn
and without
around
the bucket
and get back on track. At this point, Stanley and the bucket were knowingly walking forward into a very painful death for each of them.
But what I'm going to do is now go back. Just curious to know whether there's going to be a different response for us having walked all the way down there, then changing our minds, or turning around and walking back. I don't think so.
But of course, Stanley and the bucket thought better of it and realized they simply had too much to live for. The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens.
So
what
when we were
horrible
there,
secret did this place hold?
the
Stanley and
actual
the bucket
gangways
both
were
wondered to
actually
themselves.
already up, weren't they?
The monitors jumped to life, and Stanley nearly dropped the bucket in shock. Everyone in the office was being videotaped, monitored like guinea pigs. The bucket had never seen anything like this, and it very nearly burst into tears as Stanley cradled it gently, reassuring it
back.
that everything would be fine.
That one there's all fuzzy. One of them had a paper clip on it, didn't it? One of them definitely... Oh, was it? We could see it from here, I remember.
Was the bucket under the mind control facility's influence as well? Had the bucket been told to do things it didn't wish to do? What kinds of things does a bucket want to do or not want to do in the first place? These questions raced furiously in Stanley's feeble mind.
So the only two that have been fired is that one and that one.
No! He screamed into the bucket. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control. Never! He squeezed the bucket tighter. His one friend in the entire world.
He screamed into the bucket.
He could trust no one except for the bucket. But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions, happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he and the bucket would
We turned it off.
Stanley and the bucket waited in blackness. Was it over? Yes, they had done it. Stanley and the bucket had defeated their greatest and darkest enemy, freed themselves from the tyrannical grip of the evil mind-control machine. Freedom was now mere moments away. Excitedly, the two of them began to discuss the kind of life they wanted to live once they stepped through this massive door. The bucket wanted to learn to roller skate. Stanley wanted to sneeze in every country on Earth. Both of them wanted to begin watching
I want to sneeze on every country on Earth.
But then stop it halfway through and begin watching it in reverse from the end. True, it was a simple life they envisioned, but it was one they'd lived together, with one another to lean on, to trust, to support, and... What? Wait. What was happening? Why had the door stopped? Was Stanley and the bucket not about to be freed? An unbearable silence filled the room, lingering in uncertainty, until finally the truth hit Stanley square in the face. This building did not want the bucket to leave. Even the facility itself recognized the incredible calming presence of the bucket, needed the soothing warmth of the bucket, would go to any lengths not to part with the bucket. No, no, no. Stanley can't leave this place. Not while he has such a precious bucket in his arms. Not while this building has anything to say about it. Stanley realized he would never again leave this very room. But at least he has the bucket. To be trapped eternally in darkness isn't really so bad, Stanley thought to himself. As long as I have my bucket with me, right? I'll be okay, won't I? Stanley gulped. Very soon now, he was about to find out.
That's a dark ending, isn't it? Right.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers. Finally, yes, the bucket. Yes, yes, yes. I love that bucket.
Should we go right?
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his... This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And
is there a way of finding out how many endings we've actually had?
Was this better than the... No, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
No,
said the bucket.
don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift, yes. Good,
said the bucket. But Stanley feared that any path he walked might lead to the separation of himself and the bucket, his dearest friend. So he threw himself to his death, that they might die in one another's arms. How deeply touching.
Oh, no. I wanted to take the bucket with me, but I think once you go through the door, you can't open it.
Stanley simply couldn't handle the pressure. What if he had to make a decision? What if a crucial outcome fell under his responsibility? He had never been trained for that. No. This couldn't go any way except badly. The thing to do now, Stanley thought to himself, is to wait. Nothing will hurt me. Nothing will break me. In here I can be happy forever.
This is a different ending.
I will be happy. Stanley waited. Hours passed, then days. Had years gone by? He no longer had the ability to tell. But the one thing he knew for sure, beyond any doubt, was that if he waited long enough, the answers would come. Eventually, someday, they would arrive. Soon, very soon now, this will end. He will be spoken to. He will be told what to do. Now it's just a little bit closer. Now it's even closer. Here it comes.
So hopefully that hasn't reset. Yeah, so I can't push that button and have the bucket then, because as soon as I walk out of here, the door will shut behind me. This is loud. So these are things, but I don't quite know what you're supposed to do. Make a line, maybe? Missed. Oh, missed. Ugh. Can't get the one I want. No, it's too late. No, not that one. That one. Oh. Honestly, that one. That one. And then we want to do that one. That. Not quick enough. It's difficult to point at something when you can't see what you're pointing at. There we go. Well, that they all lined up. So that didn't happen. They're changing. Oh, come on. Oh, hang on. Come on. I don't know if these are actually anything. I could be here all day, couldn't I? But if you turn around to see what you've done, you can see that they're all switching back on again. I'm looking for colour patterns where you get a full line appear. So maybe that's one where it could happen. Not the purple. It could be the purple. No. Oh, my eyes. Just looking to see if there's any colours on the top row, the third row, and the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The odd numbers and then the even numbers where the same colour. Like the blue one, for example. No, not quite. Oh, it's so hard to look at. Is that a possibility that it's like I get the right combination and I can actually open a door? The orange ones seems to be the only ones that actually have groups of 3. If I can remember where the hell they are. There. But then that's it. There isn't any other on the other rows. There must be something that you can do. There's some reason why you can do this. And why isn't the narrator helping us? Oh, just completely missed. Ah. No, as fast as I'm doing them, it's coming on. Oh, my ears.
A soft wind blew outside and perhaps rain started, and if it did, it stopped shortly after. Stanley hoped that he would one day see weather.
Well, that's a different thing.
One man, one bucket, one chance to seize their destiny together. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
I'm kind of running out of ideas. How many endings have we had?
Here, Stanley needed the bucket's warmth and comfort now more than ever. Perhaps his boss's office was where he'd find answers. Oh, Stanley, can you feel it? The broom closet. It wants the bucket. You can feel that, can't you? The aura of jealousy? It's as clear as day. This broom closet believes it deserves the bucket. I can really feel it now. It's a bucket. It belongs in a broom closet. That's what the broom closet is trying to say here. It's supposed to go with the other cleaning supplies. Good for you, Stanley. Don't give in. Don't hand over the bucket. I know how hard it must be, given the pressure that the broom closet is putting on your shoulders right now, but you have to be strong. This is your bucket. This is your companion and lifelong friend. You can't hand it over. Oh, no. We're getting into name-calling now, it seems. Is this how low the broom closet has sunk, that it has to resort to this stream of petty insults simply in order to get you to hand over the bucket? Stanley, I never liked this broom closet for a variety of reasons, but even this is worse than I had imagined. And wait, now the broom closet has the gall to imply that you and the bucket are not truly deep and lasting friends? That your relationship is purely superficial and convenient? That your life is so banal and meaningless that you'd feel the same sort of kinship towards any inanimate object which happened to lay in your path in an even partially enticing manner? Well, I never. Go on, Stanley. Lay into it. Really tell the broom closet off for its demeaning comments. Expand on the wide variety of experiences you and the bucket have shared together. Go through each of them point by point. Share your journal entries detailing the rich emotional landscape of your feelings for them.
What's the difference? What?
The bucket, as they have changed and evolved over the years. Let him have it. Okay, I've got you something which I think will help settle this debate once and for all. Here we go. There. Now it's settled. No more debate, no more discussion.
I'm in
Take
the way.
a hike, broom closet, with all your meandering philosophical diatribes about the
Property of
nature of
Stanley.
cleaning supplies and their relationship to broom closets in the natural order of things. All right, I've got a second sticker back here, and I'm going to slap it on as well because I think it's appropriate. You see, I feel that it works because the sticker is also a bucket. That way, if you're ever unsure whether the thing you're holding is a bucket or not, you can look down at this sticker and say to yourself, ah, it's a bucket.
There you go.
There really is a wide variety of applications for this sticker.
Gonna get anything else?
You know what? I could take the name-calling and the dismissal of your kinship with the bucket, but now the broom closet is just giving us the silent treatment. And to be honest, I'm sick of the pettiness on display. You can stay here all you like, but I've had it with this impetulant room of cleaning supplies. Easily the most childish such room I've ever been in. I'll see you outside, and we can get on with the story about you and your bucket.
Okay. We will then.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
No, we've done that one, haven't we? Because that was the floating in the air and all the other bits and bobs. So we haven't tried... Well, we have, but we haven't actually tried staying in the lift for a very long time, have we? Can't read what that says at the top. I am the most expensive boss.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this revelation, Stanley may have broken down into an emotional dumpster
Sewage
fire,
Lilies
if not for the
by
soothing
Claude
presence
Monet.
of the bucket.
Monet.
Even now, in his darkest of
Monet.
hours, did the bucket's warmth and guiding light
Carte Blanche,
pierce the dark clouds of
featuring
confusion and chaos.
Mont Blanc.
It would be with him, always. The bucket would. And he knew it. The two of them were inseparable. At this point, Stanley was so absorbed in the tender spiritual connection he shared with the bucket that he didn't notice the key. But Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation.
I don't know that there's anything else that we can do that I haven't tried to do already. Oh, we haven't tried going up the lift without the bucket, have we? Even if that's a thing. I've done the two endings. There's no other alternatives down here other than going to the death route and then that's a long storyline, isn't it? Let's go back. Let's do this route again. We'll go down the left, but this time we won't pick up the bucket.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
There you go. Property of Stanley. I don't know if that actually changes the dynamics of the game. Any? Does it? Because now we've got a bucket with a label on it. There's a bucket with a label on it that's owned by me. Does that mean it's now a different bucket?
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might... Stanley stepped into the broom closet, but there was nothing here, so he turned around and got back on track.
Okay, fine.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
I feel empty without my
his
bucket.
Manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this. What dark secret was being held from him? What he couldn't... Stanley was in such a rush to get through the story as quickly as possible, he didn't even have a single minute to just let the narrator talk. That kind of anxiety isn't healthy. so he relaxed for a few moments with some calming New Age music. Feeling soothed and rejuvenated, Stanley calmly walked forward into the opened passageway.
Okay, so can we go up the lift when we do this? I got a feeling the answer's going to be no. I think that we could only do it before because we had the bucket. Oh no, we can.
Whoops, nope, never mind. Stanley actually got back into the elevator and went back up. Silly me. Why did Stanley do that when he knew that it would just lead back to his boss's office? Well, that's a great question. I just can't wait to find out.
I can't wait to find out.
Here we are, Stanley. It's your boss's office. Exactly the way it was before you got onto the elevator. It's still just exactly what it is. What a decision you've made to come up here and look at the office again. This has fleshed out the plot of the story in new and fascinating ways I could have never anticipated. It's that keen eye for storytelling that you have, an incisive rapid fire of critical plot points, one after the other, weaving a rich tapestry of uncompromising narrative. Wow! I'm bolted to the edge of my seat.
Okay, so we can do it, but nothing happens. It's only if you have the bucket.
Incredible. Now he's getting back into the elevator and going down again. Ladies and gentlemen, how does he keep coming up with all of this?
Terse.
Surely this time Stanley will walk forward into the spooky corridor, won't he? Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
Let's see if he says something
Did
different.
you think we were going to go forward down the spooky corridor? No. It's time once again to go back up in the elevator. I can't even begin to grapple with what might be up there. Is it the boss's office again? Or what if it's the boss's office this time? The suspense is killing me.
Go back into the office. And...
Oh my god. It's the boss's office. This absolutely changes everything for me. Give me a time out here for a minute while I process this. Okay, I'm ready. I'm prepared to embrace this stunning revelation and to move forward with... No! No, wait! No! I need more time to process.
okay. At least it's a different tune.
All right. I have fully come to terms with it. I have made space in my worldview for this astonishing new reality. As before, I turn to your expert eye for gripping narrative, Master Stanley.
Master Stanley. What happens if we do the code? No, he's not gonna.
Of course. Going back down in the elevator.
How did I not anticipate it? I mean, sure, now it's obvious, but you have to understand that 30 seconds ago, this kind of thing had never been attempted before. I had no frame of reference to even anticipate it. That's just how revelatory Stanley's decision-making is. A breath of fresh air in a landscape of storytelling that has grown stale and repetitive.
I feel like I need to go back up again. He's not saying anything.
You know what? I've just thought of something. Hold on, let's stop for a moment. Don't you realize? It's the anticipation, Stanley. You and I, we have no way of knowing what will be at the top of this elevator. But the suspense, the agony of waiting and anticipating and having to guess, that's the real thrill. Oh, I simply don't want to let that feeling go. It's so precious, so fleeting. Why don't we take this elevator ride nice and slow? There we go. Isn't this so much more exciting? You know, Stanley, it seems like nowadays the only thing that audiences want is to be shocked as loudly and frequently as possible. They want big, explosive moments flung right in their faces from the very moment that things get started. But where's the tension? Where's the trust in the audience to build a slow and nuanced appreciation for the story, the characters? Why aren't we given time to imagine the surprises, to have to think and to anticipate and then to marvel at the eventual reveal? This is storytelling, Stanley. What you and I are doing right now. This is the most exciting narrative to be developed in years. And it's really all because of you. You're the one who took this bold step of revisiting the exact same locations over and over. Truly, I mean it. This is unique and different. It's not like anything else out there. You see, I want stories that surprise me, Stanley. I want to have to think. I want to be engaged and not pandered to. We're being fed such unimaginative drivel all the time, and we all know it, which is why we're so starved for content that makes us feel sharp and vital and alive. That's why people like you so much, Stanley, because you're not afraid to spit in the face of tradition. You're a role model, you know? People look up to you, which is why... Oh, I didn't know when to spring this on you, but, well, I've gathered a little press conference for you so that you can talk about your work and your storytelling and your life. Yes, I know you're not much for the public eye, but I thought it would especially mean a lot to the people who have been following you from the beginning. They really look up to you, Stanley. I don't know if you realize the impact you have on them. This is the kind of gesture that might leave a tremendous impact on them for the better. Oh, good, we're here.
Don't have any options to push any buttons. We have to go this
The
way.
room where we're holding the press conference should be just around the corner here somewhere. Ah, yes, here it is, just through this door. All right, are you ready? I've told them you're going to speak a little bit about the nature of surprise in storytelling and what it means to craft a truly unpredictable narrative. Oh, don't worry, you'll do great. Just be yourself and speak from the heart. I'm really
again,
proud of
down
you,
again.
Stanley. Okay, it looks like they're ready for you. Go get them.
Break a leg, champ. I love the way you ride elevators. No one tells stories the way you do. Go get 'em, Tiger. Stanley, my true love for you grows every day. You make me feel alive. Your wife from the apartment ending. Thanks for showing me that cool skateboard trick in the parking lot. You are too cool. Good luck on your stage. Rock on. Stanley, me, Dad, age 6. No one here? Oh, wow. That's really loud. We found another ending. Cool. Still haven't figured out that one though.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. No
I'm
matter
sure I
how
saw
hard
one
Stanley
where
looked,
someone came
he couldn't find a
and it
trace
was
of
like
his
there was
co-workers.
a phone there, answer phone.
It's bucket time.
So I seem to recall there was somewhere that we went and they said it was downstairs, wasn't it? With the bucket, and they said it wasn't our bucket. But of course now we know it's our bucket because it's property of Stanley. So that's the stairs going down, isn't it?
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left. Still no one was here. Stanley needed the bucket's warmth and comfort now more than ever. Perhaps his boss's office was where he'd find out. Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office. But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss, admitting he had left his post during work hours. He might be fined for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy. And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. He looked down at the bucket in his arms. Am I crazy? He asked the bucket. The bucket returned his gaze, but said nothing at all. That's strange, Stanley thought. Usually the bucket is a source of guidance and wisdom for me in difficult times such as these. He held the bucket close, yet felt none of its familiar reassurance and comfort. And that's when
Wait for the
Stanley
bucket to
realized,
disappear.
this isn't my bucket. It's just a normal, everyday bucket. Someone else's bucket, perhaps. How did I end up with someone else's bucket? This is all terribly wrong. Surely no good
Bucket's
would come
gone.
from this. Who knows what sorts of bizarre hallucinations Stanley might experience without the psychologically grounding presence of his bucket. And indeed, now he noticed that the rooms were repeating, which was, of course, very odd. And now he felt himself floating off the ground. Oh, gracious, he exclaimed. Without my bucket, I've gone truly mad. Where is it? I must find it. Far off in the
buckets.
distance now, he heard it, calling to him.
Stanley! Stanley, it's me, the bucket.
Could it truly be? He rushed forward from room to room, passing by one bucket after the next. None of them were his. None of them were his special bucket.
Come to me, Stanley. Find me.
He had to find the bucket. He had to return to his old friend. It was the only way to truly restore his sanity. And then suddenly, he froze dead in his tracks. He knew where the voice of the bucket had been coming from. The real bucket was inside of him all along. It was incredibly painful. Stanley doubled over in agony and blacked out. This is the story of a woman named Mariella.
Right, begin again.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
I want to go in that room over there. I think we're going to have to call this one. It's now 20 past 10. So, yeah. I'm going to say thank you to everyone who's joined tonight. I normally do a raid at this point, but I'm not going to bother, I don't think. Next stream's going to be tomorrow evening. As far as I know, Matt's going to be around, so we'll be playing some more Bonding Ambivalence. which is actually a French game, but yeah. I got the autofocus back on again, even though I turned it off again. Just keeps resetting, doesn't it? All of my streams start at 8 o'clock GMT, which is UTC for those outside the UK. I'm going to say take care, have a lovely rest of your day wherever you are in the world, and yeah, good night.